Oh yeah, black on black. Nice. Okay, what's up? It's Beatty. The other day, someone posted a Phallus and Forte customer service email explaining how the device works. I chimed in and was like, alright, there's way too much nuance with length work for this to be a good answer, or than they wanted me to answer, and here it is. So, first, Patreon. I'm taking money. So, if you want to support me there, go right ahead. I sell men's health aids products at Peak Male Physique. They are not needed, but they can help. And like the video, subscribe. Pretty obvious YouTube stuff. So, first, one thing that is very important to know is that everything I'm going to say is pretty much superseded by the fact if you feel a slight uncomfortable stretch when you're doing this, you are probably doing it right. You don't want it to feel like anything, but you also don't want to feel like you're tearing your balls off in the process. So, keep that in mind. Should be like if you're trying to touch your toes, it's slightly uncomfortable, but you can still think. And this mainly applies to devices. The main thing you have to worry about with stretching is that you could be just pulling the skin if you are a lucky uncircumcised fella. In the United States, those are hard to come by. And as long as you're grabbing correctly, nothing to worry about. So the first big nuance with penis traction therapy in general is how you apply the tension. If you apply the tension straight out, let's talk about anatomy first actually. So we have a penis, okay? The penis connects to the hip. Well, actually inserts to the hip, and then there is a ligament that connects the penis to the hip structurally so it doesn't just dangle there. That ligament can become more flexible and bigger through stretches as supported by scientific research. If we target this ligament, we can increase our erection mobility, so we'd be able to go all the way down, all the way up, and pull out some internal penis that is hidden closer to the hip. Okay, now technically there's other stuff I could talk about. I'll get to it. If you pull your penis straight behind you, as far as you can, between the cheeks is what we call it, you're going to primarily target that ligament because you are fully elongating it past its original length, right? Just like if you're trying to touch your toes, your ligaments are going to get more flexible and possibly even bigger because they're handling a different load. Then on the flip side, if you pull straight out, or straight up, but we don't recommend pulling straight up because it can put straight on the pelvic floor. Anyway, you can pull straight out, and that would cause your ligament to be in its strongest position, putting all the pressure onto the shaft. Therefore, the ligament won't really get any stimulus, but the shaft will get the majority of it. So just like that, we have two different ways to lengthen the penis. And if you do straight down, it's going to be a mix of both. Moving on. Actually, I should probably touch on what I've said before. What I've noticed is that as my shaft grows, my ligaments get tighter. It's really interesting. What I'm thinking is happening is that as this grows, the insertion point of the ligament slowly moves up with it, causing more tension on that ligament. So it needs to be properly stretched out for erection mobility for one, and there's potentially even more gains swapping between ligament work and just shaft work. Something I need to look more into before I come up fine out, but it's interesting. Back to what I was talking about. In theory, there are two ways to elongate your shaft. Well, your penis. One is through the shaft, and then one is by targeting the ligaments, and what it seems like is that you need to swap between both. And then we can talk about erection quality. All this stuff's going to pathway train erection quality because you're working your penis tissue. It's going to get bigger and stronger, able to hold more blood for longer. So then there's time under tension. Time under tension is a way to talk about force applied, and it's a spectrum. So you can have it for a short period, a lot of tension, or you can have it for a long period, low tension. Once you do the math, your Newton equation, you'll find out the force applied is relatively, or can be equal depending on how long you do it and how much weight you use for that time period. Now, obviously there's going to be a window where, let's say, 1 pound of tension for 24 hours isn't going to do shit. However, 40 pounds for 5 minutes is just going to hurt yourself, or you're going to hurt yourself. You need to be in that golden ratio. This would be the difference between wearing the Fallacin Forte for 4 to 6 hours on the yellow to red spectrum, and then hanging for 20 pounds for an hour. It's going to be roughly similar in total tension applied, but you get hanging done much faster. So you probably shouldn't be hanging 20 pounds unless you're doing compression. I'll get more into that in a minute. And personally, I believe you want to be in the sweet spot from anywhere to 2 to 4 hours of moderate tension. So like I said, the Fallacin Forte as the example, yellow to red cutoff line for 2 to 4 hours in sets of 1 hour, so you don't get blisters. And that's going to depend, and then other extenders are going to vary depending on device specs. I have a very high tension extender, where if I was going to do 4 to 6 pounds for 4 hours, that would be only a third compressed. So you're going to have to check with your device manufacturer to see how much tension this puppy can apply. For hanging, it's going to depend on your own tolerance and what device you're using. Personally, I get up to about 7.5 to 10 pounds with my vacuum hanger for about an hour, and with compression hangers you can probably do about 50% more to get the same amount of. And that brings me to my next point, is the attachment mechanism. So there are 3 main ones: noose, vacuum, and compression. Nooses are dangerous, okay? Just don't use them. But basically you apply pressure directly to one point right below the head of your penis. That is a recipe for nerve injury because the pudendal nerve rests right below it. I know a lot of guys only have noose extenders because of their country's arbitrary laws in sexuality. So to mitigate the risk, you want to make that noose double or triple and use a lot of padding to keep that nerve from being impinged. Now, vacuum hanging, my personal favorite. You use a vacuum bell, you put it over the tip of your penis, and that will cause the shaft to fully stretch out. But since the glands are very sensitive, you can't use as much weight, which is probably a good thing. There's also compression, which is like we take a clamshell device, like the male hanger off the top of my head, and you cup the sides of the penis like so, and then that will grip your penis via friction and compression to apply a good anchor point for your weight. What I've noticed is that compression hangers need more weight because 1, they can just support more weight. 2, you're only feasibly working half the shaft. But because of that, the anchor point is lower on the shaft, makes it really good, if not the best thing you can do to target your ligaments. So if you haven't noticed, there's a lot of pros and cons to all of these methods, and you need to figure out what's going to work best for you. Sensitive skin guys want to stay away from vacuums. Weird glands to shaft ratios want to stay away from vacuum hangers. Guys that already have very flexible ligaments probably want to stay from compression hanging. Alright, so this brings me to my final point. And the biggest point of failure is lack of using the device properly to apply this tension. So the biggest example, or most common example I see, is when people don't let their frame extenders push into their fat pad. If it's not pushing into the fat pad, it's not fully elongating your penis. Therefore, you're not stretching it. It's a pretty easy thing to miss. Again, if you're going to slight discomfort, like in the shaft, not at the application point, then you are doing it right. But I will literally see 1 or 2 posts a month, like no gains from an extender, and then the main cause is that they are applying tension directly to the shaft because they are not fully extending it. Same thing for hanging. There is no real point to go below 2 pounds. If you sit weird in your chair while you hang, your chair is going to eat up most of it. And then, like I said, compression hanging can handle more weight, therefore you need to use more weight. And the devices like the Fallacin Forte, where you wear down your leg or around your hip like all-day stretchers, your legs and hip or pants can actually eat some of that tension. You might not be in the proper tension zone. I'm sure there are a few other things I'm missing. But these are the main things I've noticed over the past 2.5 years with this community. So if you're struggling to gain length with your device, first think about if you're using the device properly, if you're using the right angle. Also, another important thing is that you might actually need girth work to fill in this new space that you've created, which is why I developed the 1.3. Maybe I'll boop it up there. And again, there's nuances between every device. It's not just one size fits all. So, and let's be honest, most of these manufacturers, if you reach out for them help, aren't really going to give you the help because they're really only in it for the money. If they're active on our community, r/getting bigger, then they're probably actually in it to help you, is what I've noticed. So, yeah, I think that covers it. Might have been a little more rambly than usual. Not that it really matters. So, if you like it, like it. If you like what I do in particular, subscribe. Patreon. If you want to support the cause, peak male physique for penis enlargement aids that will help but are not needed. I cannot stress that enough. BD signing off.